Yeah, we're good to
Okay.
go.
You want to go, Ruthie?
I'll go because I'd always like to go. You know me. Okay. Okay, here we go. Thus says the Eternal One for Israel, 3 transgressions and for 4. I will not revoke judgment because they sell the innocent for silver, the needy for a pair of sandals. They who trample the heads of the poor into the earth's dust and make crooked the road of the meek. Father and son go to the same girl, thus they profane my holy name. Near every altar they lie on clothing taken in pledge. With the proceeds of those who have been fined, they drink wine in the house of their God. This is like poetry, I see. Yet it was I who destroyed the Amorites before them, who were tall as cedars. And I got to read this. I can't. Oh, let me bring this. Okay, wait a minute. We were tall as cedars. Where did I just? I lost my place. I'm sorry. So
Okay.
let's see. And sturdy as oaks. I destroyed their fruit on top and cut off their roots beneath. And it was I who brought you up out of the land of Egypt and led you in the wilderness 40 years to take possession of the land of the Amorites. I raised up prophets from among your children and Nazarites from among your young. Oops, young. Wait a minute. Why do I have so much trouble finding where I left off? Young. Where's young? Hold on. Where am I? I'm sorry, I can't. From the
To the
young.
top of the next page, right? You were down.
Oh, okay. I see. Oh, she just.
Right.
Oh, I see. I'm sorry. Okay, from the young.
Yeah.
Okay, go
So
now.
you got-
Okay, I'm sorry. Is this not so, people of Israel? Says the Eternal One. But you made the Nazarites drink wine and prohibited the prophets from prophesying. Now I will make you toter as a wagon toters under a full load of newly cut grain. Flight shall fail the swift, the strong shall find no strength. Warriors shall not escape from their lives. The archer shall not stand firm. The swift runner shall not escape, nor shall the horseman escape with his life. On that day, says the Eternal One, even the bravest of soldiers shall flee away naked. People of Israel, hear this word the Eternal has spoken about you, about the whole crowd that I brought up out of the land of Egypt. You alone have I known of all the families of the earth. Therefore, I will punish you for all your iniquities. Okay. Okay, here, I'm sorry. Iniquity. Do two walk together without having arranged it? Does a lion in the forest roar when it has no prey? Does a young lion growl in its den without having caught something? Well, I don't know. It could. No. Does a bird fall into a trap on the ground that has no bait? Does a trap spring up from the ground when there's nothing to capture? When the shofar is sounded in the town, do not the people tremble? When evil falls on a city, did not the Eternal make it happen? The Eternal God does nothing without revealing its purpose to God's servants, the prophets. The lion has roared, who will not fear? The Eternal God has spoken, who can buy prophecy? You know, I just want to tell you something. This bothers me. I'm going to tell you why it bothers me. There's a lot of Christians, well, I shouldn't say Christians, anybody that's not Jewish, says that a lot of things in the Old Testament, as they say, is, you know, fire and brimstone with God, because God's always showing his wrath. And in this case, it looks like this, because he says, you know, when the shofar sounded in the town, do not the people tremble? I don't think of the shofar sounding as the people tremble. It's like they're just being called to attention. And then he says, the eternal God does nothing without revealing its purpose. To God's servants, the prophets, the lion has roared, who will not fear? I mean, I don't think of God as a lion. So I don't know. The whole thing kind of bothers me. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't bother other people, but it bothers me that he refers to himself like a lion has roared.
Strong, powerful, all
Yeah,
power
Right.
but you
is
see,
metaphor.
but that's where people get the idea that the Old Testament, as they say, is, a God who's angry, a God who you have to fear. I don't know. I don't like that only. I mean, yes, there are times we have fear of God and all that, but it's not all the time. I don't know. There's something about that kind of bothers me. It just does. I don't know how anybody else
So
feels
let,
about it.
so let me put some things in perspective, which bugs
Okay.
me.
Okay.
This is in the Mideast. This is happening in, you know, the question I have is, there were no lions in the Mideast. Think about that. There's no lions in the Mideast. So it's a lousy translation because there are no lions. Lions are in Africa, unless you're saying
Yeah.
this all took place in Africa. So,
What?
so it's probably, a bad translation. It's probably, someone like that. And about the shofar, depending on the community, they blow the shofar. They said, if you hear the shofar, we're in trouble. Let's all go.
You're trembling. Yeah. Yeah.
They're trembling. It's like the movie Witness when they ring the bell and everybody comes running. They drop what they're doing and they come running because there's a problem. And so I have to look at this historically, and
Yeah.
and again, remember that at this point in time, they've got to remind these people all the time that be careful or God's going to, you step out of line.
Yeah.
This is
I
the
yeah,
only
but,
thing.
yeah.
There's no
But I don't
book.
like that. I don't like that every minute you have to be fearful of God.
Well,
I don't know. Just yeah.
well,
I think I'm sorry that you feel, well, how can I say it? I mean, I think we all have our own feelings of what God is and how God interacts with us, right? And
Yeah.
I do think that Christianity has, I mean, I don't see much difference at all. In fact, as I read the Torah with you and everything, I feel like it's exactly the same. There's just different words for a lot of the same lessons. The lessons are simple. God is in charge, and we can either work with God or we don't work with God. That's how I look at it. It's very simple.
I see.
It's tough though. I mean, I understand that a lot of people from different cultures, different religions will always say like, oh, you're not thinking of God the right way or this way or that way. And it's like, I just think God wants to be recognized and then that we are kind of connected somehow, and I think that Judaism is a great connection. I always think of like those, the talit, right?
Yes, right.
Put across your shoulder.
Yes.
That's such a comforting thing. Think about it. It's so beautiful to wrap the talit because I think of it and I'm like, wow, that's a real, it's like you're almost like getting enveloped in God's love.
That's exactly what it's about. That is true. That's exactly what they talk about the talit, like it envelops you all around you. That is true. That is what the talit, all those little fringes represents the 613 mitzvos. I don't even like to use the word commandments. I rather use the word mitzvot, even if there's all these laws and everything, because it's kind of nicer to think of it as a mitzvot instead of a commandment. See, I'm kind of like I kind of like the nice things about it.
Yeah.
And I know that's kind of silly of me too, because then I'm not being honest about seeing the whole picture. But
well,
go ahead.
I like to think metaphorically as cause and effect, I keep saying.
Yeah.
And
right.
it like Dr. Ed says to me at the time, trying to convince people that the laws have to be followed. You could look at the laws of cause and effect. If you do something, something's going to happen. And that's absolute. It doesn't mean that you're bad or anything. If you're walking around the ledge of a building and you're always walking near the ledge and always on the edge, you're always going to be on the verge of smashing to your death.
Falling yourself.
That's an absolute thing. So you could say, oh my God, the law of gravity is so evil. It's so harsh. I can't, oh my God.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
It's not. It's just cause and effect.
That's a good analogy, though, Gary.
It's cause and effect.
It's the way it was. It was the way it was invented.
You run out,
right.
You're ready to cross the street. You wait until there's a car going 90, 100 miles an hour, and you cross the street then and you get hit. Seems harsh, but You know?
But
Yeah.
then,
That's just the way I look at it.
So wait, talk about that. So look what happened yesterday, that some crazy person took a car into a parade and killed 5 people and injured 40. I mean, that was not because they did anything wrong. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's when I question, where's the fairness? These people were just having a good time. They were
Yeah.
following, they were obeying the rules of life.
But where do we see fairness in the well, we're
Yeah.
supposed to be fair as judges in terms of dealing in business, dealing with weights and stuff like that. But where
Yeah.
else do we really?
Yeah, it's tough. Crap happens, right? I mean, I hate to say it.
Yeah,
Like,
Yeah.
it's true.
it's that
It's
free will
totally
thing
true.
that comes up, and I mean, it's just a disaster. I mean, it's 40 people are injured. I mean, there've been 5
And 5 killed on,
Yeah.
just because they're celebrating a parade. That's so
Yeah.
sad,
and the guy's trying to get away from something that he just turn yourself
Yeah.
in guy. It's that terrible.
I know. It's
disaster.
very sad.
Huge
It's
disaster.
very sad. It's very sad.
Look
But
what
I'm just
happened
saying, those are the times where I can't make sense of, you always say cause and effect. I don't think everything is cause and effect, because those people didn't do anything to have that effect on them. You know what I'm saying?
But
That's what I'm
something
talking-
causes this guy to go nuts, so it's still cause and effect, and then he
Yeah,
does whatever
but
he
he
does or
he
whatever.
affects other people that are innocent. That's what I'm talking about.
Right, but that happens.
Yeah.
It's
right.
part of. You could get
Yeah.
struck by lightning, so you could say, "Oh, lightning is evil," because people.
Well, so
It's just- it
okay, so I'm going to
happens.
say something that's going to sound very harsh now. So the
Yeah.
whole Holocaust, okay, we can say, well, gee, why did 6 million Jews die? Maybe there's a reason why they died. I mean, that would be
Because
a terrible thing.
some psychopath wanted them to, and then other people facilitated it either by helping out directly or by doing absolutely nothing and allowing it to happen.
Yeah.
Cause and effect.
And it's awful. And it is awful to try to think of why. It's,
Yeah, I know. I suppose that's
Well, there are,
those
but I'm
the-
saying there are causes. I mean, they might not seem like they're, and again, you might say, oh, it's not fair, but nobody ever said anything had to be. But everything is cause and effect. What caused it? Germany was punished at the end of World War One. Some guy that was a great speaker or whatever came to power. You need a punching bag to gain strength, Hitler used the Jews, cause and effect. People started going along with it, and all these terrible things happened. Still cause and effect.
but he was a lot more evil than just that, though. He wanted to.
But
Right,
you know
but
what's really
still.
sad?
Right,
They
but
said that
he made something happen,
if
though.
he got into art school, he would never even gotten to be what is it? The head of the regime and everything. It's interesting. I gather he was very disappointed he didn't get into art school. Did you know that?
That was
the whole
like
story?
Charlie Manson was supposed to make a record or something, and it was Doris Day's son, Terry Melcher, and he had owned the house where Sharon Tate lived. Just going off on a tangent, but
Oh my
But I'm
God.
just saying, isn't it
Psychopath.
interesting? They said that he was not accepted to the art school that he wanted to go to in Austria or something. I forget where it was, and he got very upset, and then he changed and decided to get into having power. But if he had gone to art school, this wouldn't have happened. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah.
It's really wild. Okay,
It is
all right.
a
I think I've been on my soapbox too long. Okay.
I love it when you're on your soapbox, Ruthie. And I'm going to tell you, you have a contagious way about you. Are we done the half
I
hour?
hope it doesn't infect.
I want to
too many
share
people.
a video that's so funny. That's so great.
Yeah.
Can I share a video with you guys?
course,
Are we done
of
the
course.
half hour, Gary?
I think
yeah, this is the end of the Haftarah.
That's the end.
Yep.
That's the end of the Haftarah. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, so I'm gonna share my screen.
I'll stop the screen share.
This was a video that that is amazing that it even exists, because Alba took this video in 2018, and oh wait a minute, I gotta stop the share. I gotta check one thing. And she
Was
wasn't
that when
dead.
that was when I was there, right?
I think so. Hold on, I gotta do the screen share. All right, give me the screen share.
Yeah, it
swear
does
I
look
know what I'm
familiar
doing.
to me.
Okay,
Yeah,
the share
that
sound.
whole stand looks familiar to me.
All right, here we go. Now I got it right. Hold on one second. All right,
Okay.
yeah, you remember this? This was
I
our
remember
first
this very
Sober
vividly.
Beatles thing.
Yes.
And here we go. Hold on.
Our first gig ever.
It was the first gig. I was here for this. Yes.
Did you hear it?
Yeah.
All right, now something you're gonna see something else. Who's this coming in? Oh, it's Ruby!
That's me.
Right beside your screen. Hello, Ruby! Woo!
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh, please shut it off. I can't keep it up. And I'm the only one dancing in the street, remember?
Don't worry. Don't worry.
Can I buy this?
Yeah. It cost you $100. Made us play even better.
It's enough already.
Oh, look at you got a Catholic. There's a Roman Catholic.
Oh yeah, then we brought in more people.
And then there's a Mormon that's going to join you. You've got everyone going with you.
Oh my God.
Oh man, that was exciting.
I remember it very vividly.
I couldn't even. And Alba shot the video. That was
Yeah.
I just kind of was made aware of who Alba was. I mean, we were just starting to be friends.
But we got the whole thing on DVD though, too. Remember?
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. You do. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
you know
That's
what
what I
I
made
did?
the
is
recording.
I
I don't
gave
remember.
you all the filming.
That's what I made the MP3s from.
Yeah, from
from-
the filming I did with my camera.
No,
Remember I
no. The one from
Oh,
the
that was-
TV station, the
Oh,
local
that was okay. That was
public
another thing.
access
Okay.
TV. Steve Spector had got sets of the DVDs for us.
Oh, yeah.
So then I mixed down
Yeah, what
MP3s like
to
the.
Steve Spector, incidentally.
He left the Zilba Beatles. He couldn't handle the pressure.
Oh.
You know?
No.
You know? I mean, the Beatles had a drum Pete Best, but with us, the drums just left, you know? But we have the greatest drummer now, though.
Oh, you have a great drummer. I remember you had a
George
wonderful
is
drummer.
incredible.
It's very good.
We got.
All right, let's go back to Torah.
All right, let me screen share.
Yes, please. Thank you, Gary.
Yeah,
That
let
was my
me,
favorite clip. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh
Doctor.
my God! Please don't show it to too many people. Okay, let's go on.
Well, I'm
Can we
buying it.
Full.
You're gonna buy it.
He's gonna buy a copy.
Watch,
Can we keep it in this Torah study though on YouTube?
Yeah, we can keep it in the Torah study. That's about
All
it.
right.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Ruthie. Thank you. I know. Oh my gosh,
Okay.
it's so incredible. It makes me so happy to see that. So much joy. That's the beauty of Judaism, I think, is the joy. That's
Yes.
in Christianity, we don't, I mean, unless they're Pentecostal, we don't get the same joy as is.
Oh, really? See, now that's interesting to me because they talk always about love of God and love of Jesus. I don't know. I always think it's all about love in Christianity, you know?
Yeah, but there's this weird sense of like it being a quiet time for most Christians. Some Christians get a little loud, but it's always
Advent
so
is coming
sad,
up,
right?
right?
Because Jesus suffered so much and how we have to suffer. And
Oh, yeah, that's the thing I don't like is I don't like all that suffering, yeah. And that you're born into sin. That's the thing I couldn't get
Yeah.
into. I can't get into the born into sin thing. Yeah.
Wait a second.
Is that a Jewish thing or just a Christian?
No. It is in a way. It's maternal guilt versus original sin. I don't know which is worse. Oh my God! Don't get me going on my.
Oh my God.
Well, if you think
All
of
right.
original sin, I mean, Cain and Abel. I mean,
I know, yeah.
Yeah.
you know, it's like God tells us basically the humans are prone to be evil, are sinful, and that's why we need
Well, it
something
started with
to.
Adam and Eve. Forget about Cain and Abel. It started with
Right,
Adam
that's
and
what
Eve.
I'm saying. Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Yeah.
That even more so. Yeah.
Beware of the humans; they kill for sport. You know what that comes from, right?
Is that the Planet of the Apes?
Planet of the Apes.
Yes, Planet of the Apes.
Roddy McDowell, man, the guy was a sage.
That's funny. Does somebody else want to read? I don't want to be the only one monopolizing all the.
I'll read.
I have a problem on this iPad. I can barely read, so I would
Okay.
love to, but I can't.
Okay.
I'll
All
read
right, I'll
that.
continue then. I'll continue.
Okay.
I can always blow it up. See, I have this wonderful thing about iPads. You can just blow it up with your fingers. Okay, so I just blew it up a little. Okay. Jacob now settled in the land of his fathers, sojourning in the land of Canaan. This is the family history of Jacob. When Joseph was 17 years old, he would tend the flock alongside his brothers. He was an attendant along with the sons of Bilhah and Zilpah. His father's wives and Joseph would bring malicious reports about them to their father. Yet Israel loved Joseph better than his other sons, for he was to him the son of his old age. He therefore made him a coat of many colors. When his brothers saw that he was the one their father loved more than any of his brothers, they hated him and could not bear to speak peaceably to him. Joseph dreamt a dream one time, and when he told it to his brothers, they hated him all the more. He said to them, "Do hear this dream that I dreamt. There we were, tying up sheaves of wheat in the field, when my sheaf rose up and stood up straight. Your sheaves that paraded in a circle around mine and bowed down to my sheaf." His brothers said to him, "Are you so certain you will reign over us? Do you really expect to rule us?" So they hated him all the more for his dreams and his words. He dreamt yet another dream and recounted it to his brothers, saying, "Look now, I've dreamt another dream, and look, the sun, the moon, and 11 stars were bowing down to me." But when he recounted it to his father and his brothers, his father rebuked him, saying, "What is this dream that you dreamt? Your mother, your brothers, and I, must we really come to bow down to the ground before you?" His brothers detested him, but his father kept the matter in mind. And when his brothers went to tend their father's flock at Shechem, Israel said to Joseph, "Surely your brothers are tending the flock at Shechem by now. Come, let me send you to them." He answered, "Here I am." Israel then said to him, "Pray, go see how your brothers are and how the flock is doing, and bring me back word." So he sent him from the valley of Hebron and came to Shechem. There a man happened on him as he was wandering in the countryside. The man asked him, "What are you looking for?" He said, "I'm looking for my brothers. Can you tell me, please, where they are tending the flock?" The man said, "They left this place. Yes, I heard them say, 'Let's go to Dothan.'" So Joseph went after his brothers and found them at Dothan. They saw him in the distance, and before he neared them, they wickedly plotted against him to bring about his death. They said to one another, "Here comes that master of dreams. Now then, let us kill him and throw him into one of these pits and say a wild animal devoured him. Then we'll see what becomes of his dreams." But when Reuben heard this, he saved him from their hands by saying, "Let us not strike him a mortal blow." Reuben said to them, "Do not shed blood. Throw him into this pit here in the wilderness, but do not lay a hand against him in order to deliver him from their hands to restore him to his father." So when Joseph came to his brothers, they stripped Joseph of his coat, the coat of many colors that he had on. Then they took him and threw him into a pit. The pit was empty. There was no water in it. They had sat down to eat when they looked up and saw a caravan of Ishmaelites traveling from Gilead. Their camels were loaded with laudanum, balm, and mastic. They were heading down to Egypt. Judah then said to his brothers, How? Gotta go up. How? Wait a minute.
Sure. It's going up.
Where are we?
How will
I
it
can't-
profit us? Number 26.
Oh, sorry. Oops, wait a minute. How
Hold
Then
will
hold
it-
it. Wait, let me go back. Hold on.
Go back. You're going too quick. Okay, all right. How will it profit? 26 is not that.
Yep.
How?
Judah
I
then
see
said
it.
to his brothers, How will it profit
Yeah.
us if we kill our brother and cover up his blood?
Oh, how? I'll cover it. Let us sell them to the Ishmaelites, then our hand will not be on him. After all, he is our brother, our own flesh, and his brothers heeded him. Okay,
Can we
now.
stop here and talk about it a little bit?
Oh, sure.
Can I
sure.
say,
Yeah.
can I just mention one thing that I started thinking about this last week that's kind of weird. Like, we know that, Joseph's brothers hated him because they knew his father loved him more and everything. And, the fact that he told them that dream, it's not a dream that would make them happy. But don't they seem, the brothers and even Jacob, don't they seem to make a lot of assumptions just because the kid tells them about a dream? So they're already saying, oh, so you're going to rule over us? Or you're going to. What makes them say that? Just because he tells them the stupid. I mean, he
Well,
tells
did
them
they-
a dream that.
But I wondered in those days that dreams to them felt like prophecies. That's what I'm wondering.
They may
I don't-
have.
They might
But
have
even
thought
so,
that, oh,
even
yeah,
so, but and even though the numbers matched up, and all of that,
Yeah.
but it's just an assumption it seems that they're making. So what does that tell you about the brothers? I mean, I don't know. I've never thought of this in my life. All the times I read this, but just this week I started thinking of this.
yeah,
Because it does kind
Yeah.
of, there's always a question of who Joseph is. Like, he's young. He's 17 right now. We
Yeah.
don't, we see him as he's a 17-year-old kid, and he's younger than all his other brothers, and he likes to tattle on them, right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
the other thing. And maybe it's an innocent tattling. Like, maybe he doesn't
Yeah.
know how bad they are. Maybe he's just saying, like, he's just reporting. Oh, well,
Yeah.
that guy did this, and that guy did that, and Reuben was
Yeah.
over here, and this.
Yeah.
And but then they'll probably look at it as like, that's what are you telling dad that for? And
Yeah,
and
but
his
I
father
was
probably gets
thinking,
mad.
I'm thinking about teenagers in general. Let's just like think about this. I have a granddaughter who's 18 and she's quite intelligent. And sometimes she thinks she's, more intelligent than everybody else, at that age. Now she's
Oh,
going to
yeah.
be 19, but even so, at this age, they think they know a lot. A lot of teenagers think they know it all. Okay. So at this point in her development, I notice that she thinks, when somebody says something, I know all about that. So I think that's where Joseph is at. He thinks he knows when he tells this dream that it has some meaning. That's why I said it might look to Joseph like a prophecy. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because he's a teenager and he likes to believe all this, I think that's part of it.
Mhm. Mhm.
Could
I don't
be,
know.
but I'm saying it's just weird because I'm just saying in my mind I never thought of. I mean, he does tell them that and everything,
Yeah.
but
Right, they're the ones that are interpreting it. Right, it's not
Yeah,
even
yeah,
Joseph
he's-
interpreting it, but
he doesn't
becomes like a
interpret it. He
great-
just
Yeah,
he just says, "I had
tells
this
it, yeah.
dream." It's like maybe a metaphor,
Yeah.
but it
But
doesn't
when he
tell them
says
any
that
other
they
thing
bow
other than
down
that.
to him, that's when they get very upset because it's
The
like
sheaves bow down to him. It didn't say that you all bow down to me.
Oh, right.
It's a
that's
metaphor,
True. Yeah,
but
you're
they
right.
somehow, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm just saying, it's just something I've been thinking about
But the
this.
metaphor to them was, we have to bow down to you. It's like siblings talk about, are you so much better than me? That's how siblings talk to each other.
But I
Right.
think there's some assumptions in there.
But Dr. Mike also brought this up, I think it was last year, where the inheritance up to this point, the inheritance of Abraham was always with one son. And so there was the sibling rivalry here was really, really great because it was obvious to the other sons that Joseph was the special one. He has the special coat.
Yeah.
It's the son of
Right.
Jacob's old age.
I mean,
and then
they
they might
had a
get
reason
shut
to
out.
be upset.
Yeah, and they might get shut out of the inheritance if it's only going to go to one son.
Right.
It seems like, oh well, this is the one that he wanted most because it's Rachel's son. Rachel and Jacob were the
Right.
great couple.
But also, so let's think about in this day and age, if you had brothers or sisters and one gets this beautiful coat of colors and the others get these schmutties, these rags, I'm saying you'd be pretty upset. Why can't I get that pretty colored coat?
Right,
I would be upset. I just happen to have brothers. I don't have sisters, but my brothers, they got a lot more attention, believe it or not, than me because I was a girl. Like my mother told me, the reason why my mother told me I couldn't be bat mitzvah was not because girls didn't get bat mitzvah or anything. She says, you're a girl. She says, it's really most important for boys. Everything was about boys when I was growing up. So wow. I'm just saying, I know that it's changing now, but I'm just saying, if I was the sister of Joseph, I'd be very, very jealous. I would be jealous. Why does he get the pretty colored coat and I get the schmutty, the rags, So I mean, this all seems very common sense to me. This doesn't bother me because it seems like common sense to me. Sibling rivalry, it's been going on for millions of years,
Cain and Abel.
Yeah. So
Can I read the next one?
Go, please read. Yeah.
Okay. When the Midianite traders came through, they pulled Joseph up out of the pit. They sold Joseph for 20 pieces of silver to the Ishmaelites, who carried Joseph off to Egypt. Reuben went back to the pit, but Joseph was not there in the pit. He tore his clothes. Going back to his brothers, he said, "The boy is not there. Where am I to go?" So they slaughtered a goat, took Joseph's coat, and dipped the coat in the blood. They carried the coat of many colors and brought it to their father. They said, "We found this. Do you recognize it? Is it your son's coat?" He recognized it, saying, "My son's coat. A wild animal has devoured him. Joseph has been ripped to shreds." Then Jacob tore his clothes, put sackcloth on his loins, and mourned his son many days. His sons and daughters endeavored to console him, but he refused to be consoled, saying, "No, in mourning shall I go down to my son to Shul." Thus did his father bewail him. Meanwhile, the Midianites sold him to Egypt, to Potiphar, one of Pharaoh's officers, captain of the guard. Around that time, Judah parted from his brothers and fell in with an Adulamite named Hira. There Judah saw the daughter of a Canaanite named Shua. He took her to wife and coupled with her. She became pregnant and bore a son, and he named him Again, she became pregnant and bore a son, and she named him Onan. Yet again, she became pregnant and bore a son, and she named him Shelah. When she gave birth to him, he, Judah, was in Shezib. Judah now took a wife for his firstborn. Her name was Tamar. But Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of the Eternal, and the Eternal brought about his death. Judah then said to Onan, "Couple with your brother's widow, unite with her, and raise up offspring for your brother." But Onan knew that the offspring would not be his, so whenever he coupled with his brother's wife, he would waste his seed on the ground in order not to produce offspring for his brother. What he did was wicked in the sight of the Eternal, who brought about his death as well. Judah then said to his daughter-in-law Tamar, "Stay as a widow in your father's house until my son Shelah grows up." He thought, lest he too die like his brothers. So Tamar went and stayed in her father's house. Time passed, and Shua's daughter, Judah's wife, died. And after Judah was consoled, he went up to his sheep shearers, he and his friend Hira the Adullamite, toward Timnah. When Tamar was told, "Look, your father-in-law is going up toward Timnah to shear his sheep," she discarded her widow's garb, covered herself up with a veil, wrapped herself up, and stationed herself at the entrance to Enaim on the way to Timnah. For she saw that Shelah had grown up, yet she had not been given to him as a wife. When Judah saw her, he took her for a prostitute, for she had covered her face. So he turned toward her on the road and said, "Pray, let me couple with you." He was not aware that she was his daughter-in-law. And she said, "What will you give me to couple with me?" He replied, "I will send you a kid from the flock." But she said, "Only if you give me a pledge until you send it." He asked, "What sort of pledge should I give you?" She then said, "Your signet seal, your cord, and the staff in your hand." So he gave them to her and coupled with her, and she became pregnant by him. When he got up and left, she discarded her veil and put on her widow's garb again. But when Judah sent the kid by way of his Edomite friend to redeem the deposit from the woman, he did not find her. And when he asked the people of her place, "Where is that courtesan, the one at the crossroads?" they replied, "There wasn't any courtesan here." He then returned to Judah and said, "I did not find her. Moreover, the people of the place said, 'There never has been a courtesan here.' Judah then said, 'Let her keep it, lest we become a laughingstock. I did send this kid, though you could not find her.' Then, after about 3 months, Judah was told, 'Tamar, your daughter-in-law, has played the whore. Oh, and now she has even become pregnant by whoring.'" Doesn't it hurt just to think this?
This is
Horrible. Oh my gosh. And Judah said, "Bring her out and let her be burned."
ay, 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 ay.
Oh, Lord have mercy. But brought out she was, but she sent to her father-in-law, saying, "The man to whom these belong made me pregnant." And acknowledge whose signet seal, cords, and staff these are. And she must have placed them before him. Judah recognized them and said, "She is more in the right than I, for certainly I did not give her to my son Shelah, and he never touched her again." Oh my God. When she was giving birth, lo, she had twins in her belly. And just as she was giving birth, one put a hand out, and the midwife took it and tied a crimson thread on its hand, saying, "This one came out first." But when it pulled the hand back, look, its brother came out. So she said, "What a breach you have breached." And she named him Perez. Afterward came his brother, on whose hand was the crimson thread, and she named him Zerah. Now we're back to Joseph. Does anyone want to pick it up from Joseph again? That was a little.
Why don't you
sidestep.
continue? Why don't
Okay.
you continue?
Okay. Now, my guy Joseph. I love Joseph. Now Joseph was brought down to Egypt. In Potiphar, one of Pharaoh's officers, captain of the guard, an Egyptian man, purchased him from the Ishmaelites who had brought him down there. But the Eternal was with Joseph. He was a man who prospered. Now that he was in the household of his Egyptian master, his master saw that the Eternal was with him, and that the Eternal was prospering whatever he touched. Joseph, therefore, found favor in his sight and ministered to him. And he, Potiphar, gave him authority over his household and placed all that he owned in his hand. From the time he gave him authority over his household and over all that he had owned, the Eternal blessed the house of the Egyptian on account of Joseph. The blessing of the Eternal was on all that he owned in the house and in the field. He left all that was his in Joseph's hand and gave no thought to what he had other than the food he ate. So Joseph's a good manager, it seems. Now Joseph happened to be fair of form and fair of appearance. And after all this, his master's wife set her sights on Joseph and said, "Lie with me." But he refused, saying to his master's wife, "Look, my master gives no thought to what is in his house. All that he owns, he has put into my hands. There is none greater than I in this house. He has withheld nothing from me other than you. Inasmuch as you are his wife, how then could I do this great evil and thus sin against God?" And so she would sweet talk Joseph day after day, but he did not heed her plea to lie by her and be with her. On one such day, when he came into the house to do his work, and not one of the people of the household was there in the house, she took hold of him by his garment, saying, "Lie with me." He left his garment in her hand, fled, and ran outside. When she saw that he had left his garment in her hand and fled outside, she summoned her household servants and spoke to them, saying, "See, he brought us a Hebrew man to toy with us. He came to me to lie with me, and I cried out in a loud voice. When he heard me raise my voice and cry out, he left his garment with me and fled and ran outside. And she kept his garment with her until his master came home. She spoke to him in this manner, saying, The Hebrew slave whom you brought to us came to me to toy with me. But when I raised my voice and cried out, he left his garment near me and fled and ran outside. When his master heard his wife's words, namely, your slave did these things to me, he was enraged. So Joseph's master took him and gave him over to the prison, the place where the Pharaoh's prisoners were kept, and there he remained in the prison. Yet the Eternal was with Joseph and extended kindness to him and lent him grace in the prison warden's sight. The prison warden put all the prisoners of the jail in Joseph's hands, and whatever was done there was his doing. The prison warden never saw anything amiss with him, because the Eternal was with him, and because whatever he did, the Eternal prospered. So what do we think of this? I'm interested in that toying part.
Well, see, I think that's really interesting. That's where it's like a Peyton Place type of thing, it's like she really, she was really, hoodwinking him. And I just think it's terrible that she lied. I mean, she lied, she made up her own story.
Yeah, it's true. And that whole part where Joseph's was fair to look at, even the Muslims have the same story. And they say that Joseph was the most beautiful man that has ever lived. Like, there's no question when you saw this guy, it was almost like you just couldn't keep your eyes off him if you saw him.
But not only because he was good looking, but because he was a good person.
Yeah, I think you're right.
See, that's what I get out of it. I wasn't thinking about him as being good looking, is that he was really very fair. Because constantly this is coming up, that Joseph is constantly being fair-minded all the time. And that was the most important lesson here.
And here is one of the first things too, where he resists. He's able to resist the sexual temptation.
Yeah, although that woman made it different.
Yeah, he actually,
like I said, she acts like this is a soap opera.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly. And who took the name Joseph because of this story was Cat Stevens. Cat Stevens took the name Yosef because he identified with Joseph, the character Joseph, so much because he felt like he was kind of victimized by the record industry, like halfway.
Interesting.
Yeah, interesting. Anybody else want to read?
I will.
Okay, good.
After all this, the cupbearer of the king of Egypt and the baker offended against their master, the king of Egypt. And Pharaoh was furious at his two officers, at the chief cupbearer and at the chief baker. He placed them under guard in the house of the captain of the guard in the prison, the very place where Joseph was confined. The captain of the guard assigned Joseph to them. He waited on them, and they were sometime under guard. They dreamt a dream, the two of them, the cupbearer and the baker of the king of Egypt, who were held in the prison, each one's dream falling on the same night, each one's dream with its own meaning. When Joseph came to them in the morning, he saw that they seemed out of sorts. He asked Pharaoh's officers who were with him under guard, "Why are you so downcast today?" So they said to him, "We each dreamt a dream, but there is no one to interpret it." Joseph then said to them, "Surely interpretations are in God's domain, but go ahead and tell them to me." The chief cupbearer then recounted his dream to Joseph, saying to him, "In my dream there was a vine in front of me, and on that vine were 3 branches. Barely had it budded, when its blossoms flowered, its clusters ripened with grapes. Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, and I took the grapes and squeezed them into Pharaoh's cup, and put the cup in Pharaoh's palm." Joseph then said to him, This is its meaning. The 3 branches are 3 days. In 3 days' time, Pharaoh will lift up your head and restore you to your post. You shall again place Pharaoh's cup in his hand, as you used to do when you were his cupbearer. Only call me to mind when it goes well for you, and keep faith with me. Commend me to Pharaoh, and get me out of this. Oh, wait a second. Oh, 1 second. There we go. Out of this place. For I was stolen from the land of the Hebrews, and here too I did nothing, that they consigned me to this pit. When the chief baker saw how well he had interpreted, he said to Joseph, in my dream too, look, there were 3 baskets of bread on my head. And in the topmost basket was every kind of food for Pharaoh, baked goods and birds eating them from the basket on my head. Joseph then responded, saying, this is its meaning. The 3 baskets are 3 days. In 3 days' time, Pharaoh will lift your head from your body and hang you on a pole, and birds will eat your flesh from upon you. The 3rd day was Pharaoh's birthday, and he gave a feast for all his officials. He singled out the chief cupbearer and the chief baker among his officials. He restored the chief cupbearer to his office. Again, he placed the cup in Pharaoh's palm. The chief baker he hanged, as Joseph had interpreted for them. But the chief cupbearer did not remember Joseph. Instead, he forgot him.
Whoa.
Oh,
Yeah. You can't trust anybody, huh?
I don't want to be the baker in this story. Can you imagine
It's-
being the baker? Like, oh, I had a dream too. Look at my dream. What's going to happen to me, Joseph?
Incidentally, after
I have a dream today.
I want to tell you a dream I really did have a few nights ago that's very weird, and I thought you guys would like to hear this dream.
Yeah.
It goes to show you, I know why I had this dream, but you'll hear about it afterwards.
Oh, it's a little cliffhanger, a little tease.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's fine. Where are we?
That's the end, isn't it?
Oh, it's the end. Dr.
Oh my
Ed, what do you
God,
think?
Ray. We're at the end already. Oh my God.
Dr. Ed's been really quiet. I don't know. This is making me nervous.
Still water runs
very
deep.
busy tonight, Dr. Ed.
Well, I've been just listening. I mean, there is something, we are a week front of the Temple Israel or commentaries I get. So now next week I'll get the commentary on this. And I think when maybe we're out of sync because, when Joseph heard when for instance, when the angel wrestling with the angel, like, what does that mean? Well, there are all kinds of stories, for instance, about the wrestling of the angels in the commentaries. And I think we're missing something here by looking at just the literature, just the liturgy. We're missing the commentary here. And I'm trying to think, maybe we should look for the commentary, because I know we're missing something, because the story.
There is things that are missing. That's why I do say that Talmud is important if you get to understand Talmud, it really does make more sense.
Missing, the liturgy is important, but the commentary, what it means, is we're missing totally.
Right.
And I don't know how we're going to do that, but I think we're moving too fast because we're reading what it says, but not what it means.
Well, sometimes we have to interpret it for ourselves. I mean, that's what Gary teaches me, because I was always telling to Gary we should do the Talmud, which gives much more of a interpretation. Of
But
the
I
Torah.
read commentaries. I read lots of commentaries.
Yeah, well, no, but I'm saying that you also said that it's good for us to bring our own interpretation to it. You mentioned that to me, Gary. Yeah.
I always feel like that.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, it doesn't. But I know what Ed's saying too, though.
You know what? We might never get like the answer. I mean, I used to be like, I wanted to know the answer about things. I kind of like reading this because, yes, I can learn a lot just about ethics and how to live as a nice human being and learn lessons and stuff. But then it's also, to me, it does help me understand how things are in this world today, because there's not that much difference of what's going on in the world today right now.
Well,
than what
Ruth,
we're
I'll tell
reading.
you, I can send you pornography that I could clean off the internet that was cleaner than what we heard tonight. I mean, this Pasha and the Pasha before were absolutely no rated triple X. And, you know, we made such a big thing about,
But I do have a question that has to do with sex in this that we went over very quickly. If you remember, I forget who it was that he instead of going into the woman, he dropped his seed into the ground. Who
Right.
was
The brother.
that? The
His
brother.
brother,
Okay. The
yeah.
reason why I bring this up is that I've been told by the Orthodox, and I want to know if this is true. Is it from that saying that they say you should not masturbate? Because I always thought that was not a good analogy of, because he didn't want to impregnate the person. That's why he dropped his seed.
Waste and seed, like, in other words, be fruitful and multiply.
Yeah,
Gotta go
but
blind.
that was for
yeah.
not getting her pregnant. But I'm thinking that it doesn't actually say that you cannot masturbate. But they say that's not allowed.
Maybe the Torah was teaching the first method of birth control, the withdrawal method.
That's
There
right.
you go.
Yeah. But
There
that,
you
I mean,
go.
to me, these conversations that we're having right now are phenomenally more entertaining and more fruitful.
Of
Because like
course.
we've actually been in Bible studies when people will read the Bible and then they'll have commentary that will read the commentary, and then it's like, are we just going to go from Bible to commentary to Bible? Because it's like, that's like school to me. It's like, oh, because I want to just go freewheeling with it.
I
Because that's the thing.
understand.
I'm
I
like-
just find it interesting. I don't know. There's so many things that
I just
'cause
love.
remember,
Yeah,
I was
love
married
Ruth's
to an
stuff.
Orthodox. You have to understand. I was married to an Orthodox Jew. Okay,
Yeah.
and I learned a lot of things that were like, whoa. And I always wanted to know where in the Torah it says you can't masturbate. And I understand about the dropping of the seed in the ground instead of going into her and having her pregnant.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that was because he didn't want to impregnate her. That doesn't mean that masturbation was not acceptable. That's my
Right.
personal
But I
opinion.
think
Sometimes-
if you think about it in those terms, it's almost like you're denying your wife something. I think, in a sense that if you don't, I mean, granted, you're.
But in
I
this case, though, it's on behalf of his
masturbation.
brother.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
This-
But it's
in this
on-
particular-
it's on
But I
behalf
think
of his
I think
brother.
sometimes too that we learn from the Torah by what's not said in there. Like there are times I was thinking of this today too, because I went to a wake, and I was thinking of cremation and like the fact that Jews historically were into cremation. But then I think, where in the Torah do we ever see anybody being cremated, except
No,
for maybe when Aaron's two sons are consumed by the fire?
But the reason we can't be cremated is because there's the resurrection. Like at Gethsemane, everybody is going to be resurrected. You has to be a body to be resurrected.
Yeah, but wait, you know what?
But is that in the five books though?
I have to interject right now. I just heard this is a Christian. Not a priest. It was a minister who explained that whole thing on something I saw on YouTube. He said that the actual cremation is okay to do because when you do get resurrected, it's not the same body. The body that you die with is not the body you get resurrected in. So actually what you just said, Ed, is not true. He was saying that when you die, your body does rot and that's the end of it. But the body that's supposedly supposed to be resurrected is a body that's created by God.
But the Jews, the question though, the Jews believe in the resurrection?
They do. Can't remember. I can't remember where, and in the commentary.
Yeah, but the Jews do
The bottom
believe in
line
resurrection.
the bottom line here is that right now the reform movement allows for cremation.
Everything. Right.
Cremation now. So it's just, hey, look, all I can tell you is we're reading this in a vacuum, and I'm not sure how good that is. I think we need to spend more time on certain pieces because I don't think that we have the ability. I mean, I could read you advanced biological study. You wouldn't understand a word it said, but you know, or maybe you would, but you wouldn't understand what it exactly means. And that's what I'm getting kind of wound up here with is this, you know, look,
Well, at
the
this
more
stage of the game, I hate to cut people off, Dr. Ed, and I love you like a brother.
But
At this stage of
you
the
know,
game, though, we are above 50 years old, all of us. We've had life experiences. We've read these stories before, and I just think it's more. I mean, even just talking about dreams tonight, it really struck something deep within me. I mean, these stories are hitting us at different levels. And this was explained to me by a rabbi, a Chabad rabbi in Newton, that when you read these stories, you're reading the literature, there's no question, we're reading words. We're also getting a deeper level because once we start talking about dreams and all this other stuff, we're going into a lower level. But then there's two other levels that it's this stuff is hitting us in. And the reason why this is so amazing and dramatic is not only because these stories are 1,000 years old and older and they've been around for a long time, but there's also repetition of these ideas, the kids coming out with the hand coming out first, the wrapping around of the thing, all these things. And it makes, to me, it just makes it absolutely phenomenal because we've lived our lives. I mean, if we were 17 and 18 and we're reading this stuff, it seems like, okay, they're stories, they're cute. But in this stage of the game, we are going over the hill. We're ready to see the great glory beyond. Hallelujah, brother. And I'm like, I feel like this is like a new lease on life that I look at this every time we read it. I'm like, oh my God, this is great stuff. And I get so excited.
As long as we all feel it that way, that's fine with
I
me.
do. I feel like I learned stuff from all of you.
So
From you, Dr. Ed, Ruthie.
which wake did you go to today?